reason why people call Sophie Cunningham MAGA Barbie, and people are starting to fill the arenas to watch her and Caitlin Clark. She's not apologizing for saying that there should be no men in this woman's sport. It's caused an absolute crisis. People are losing their mind. Photo of Brittney Griner with a full beard after being released from a Russian prison.
The WNBA's Brittney Griner is a man.
Men should not play sports against women. I'm not going to get into all the bullshit that's going on out here in the world today. If anybody thinks that, I think they're stupid. I'm not.
The WNBA reportedly held a task force meeting focused on defining what a woman is, yet no clear public definition came out of it. This is a league that has been around for 30 years and a defending champion organization operating under a 409-page collective bargaining agreement that contains only one basic sentence on eligibility. Only women are eligible to play in the WNBA. But the agreement does not explain what the league means by woman. There are no stated criteria regarding biological sex, hormone levels, physical characteristics, or other specific standards. That is where Benny Johnson, one of America's rapidly growing conservative media personalities with millions of followers across multiple platforms, stepped up to the microphone and asked the question the WNBA task force apparently could not answer.
League run by women decided a shirt wearing saying "for the girls" was too offensive. Meanwhile, State Farm Arena put up a pro-trans message on the big screen, but won't allow the shirt that states basic biological truth. What is so offensive or scary about this message? The genetic message of gender, the genetic message of biological sex. Wow, the WNBA doesn't know what a woman is. But the shirts that reference the XX chromosomes are.
Is there a man in the WNBA? Johnson asked. And the league, which had dismissed the broader debate as a bad faith argument and a publicity stunt, had no direct answer for him.
Griner's voice.
I believe what you said was effing white girl. Is it possible that's what you said?
No, would never say that.
Brittney Griner called Caitlin Clark trash and effing white girl. Trash, effing white girl.
Brittney Griner, who I can't stand, sad that she's a Baylor grad.
Yeah,
she called her a trash expletive white girl. That was the lip reading. Yes, trash white girl.
Meanwhile, Brittney Griner has pushed back against the attention surrounding the controversy, while Sophie Cunningham has continued defending the position she originally expressed. Johnson's question was straightforward. Is there a man in the WNBA after the league refused to define what a woman is? It is a simple and direct question. Yet, according to this argument, even the WNBA task force could not provide a clear answer.
It's culminate in you actually playing in the WNBA.
They better. Why wouldn't they let me play? It's completely bigoted to deny my trans existence.
That is exactly why the question gained so much attention. Within hours, it spread throughout sports media and across social platforms because critics argue that the WNBA's own written eligibility language leaves an important term undefined. The CBA states that only women are eligible to play in the WNBA, but it does not specifically establish what qualifies someone as a woman or provide detailed standards involving biological sex, hormone levels, or physical characteristics.
Cunningham, otherwise known as MAGA Barbie in the WNBA, is a superstar player. She's one of the most famous female athletes in the world because she stood up for women in women's sports, saying only biological women should be allowed to play in the WNBA. And for that, she is literally risking her life. Check this out. This is what happened to Sophie Cunningham last night when she was clotheslined by a filthy, dirty player for Chicago who has a name that I can't pronounce, or maybe I just refuse to do that. That's my right as an American. But this is a player that has attacked Caitlin Clark, gouged her eye out, that has now bloodied the face of Sophie Cunningham, and as soon as she did this, she tweeted white privilege, meaning she's declaring this is a race crime. Now, if a white woman was doing this to black women, it'd be the #1 story in the world, she'd be banned from the league forever. But somehow black women are allowed to get away with this against white women. And it's white women in the league who make themselves a target by simply standing up for traditional values and common.
At the same time, the agreement does not contain a specific clause stating that eligibility is automatically granted simply through a declaration or self-identification as a woman. So Johnson raised the question. The WNBA task force reportedly met to address the issue, and critics say there was still no publicly definitive definition of female. The league's response, which characterized the controversy as a bad faith stunt, may be effective as a public relations argument. But critics argue that a statement like that would not settle the underlying legal questions if the issue ever reached court.
Of course, doesn't want to make anything political. Here they are welcoming the Honorable Stacey Abrams. The Honorable Stacey Abrams. Well, what has she done that's honorable? What's dishonorable is that at that same game, a mother wore a XXXY Athletics for the girls with her daughter apparel. This is a brand that, of course, is defending women in women's sports, and she got kicked out of the game. And you can see there somebody a fan flipping them off, whether this is a board member, potentially. Look at this. Whether that's a board member of the WNBA, but she doesn't know what a woman is, right? Like what?
If this controversy were to reach federal court, the issue could become much more significant. The WNBA has described the declarations from Anis Kaner Freedom and Royce White as a stunt and accused them of acting in bad faith. But critics say the league still faces a basic question. What exactly are its eligibility standards? That is not Benny Johnson's responsibility to explain. It is the WNBA's.
I'm never going to think it's all right for men to play sports against women. And I don't even think that's controversial. That's the thing that's funny. Like some of this stuff like when you see these debates on television, I'm like, yeah, men shouldn't play sports against women. I'm done. I don't want to hear you try to explain it to me. No, I don't want to hear it. I'm not going to argue with you. Men shouldn't play sports against women. I'm done. There's a lot of we can argue over. That ain't
you women out there. Y'all petty, man. Hey, LeBron, you're 100% right on these girls hating on Caitlin Clark.
Here is another part of the debate that critics say has received less attention in mainstream coverage. Brittney Griner is 6'9" and has become one of the central figures mentioned in the public discussion surrounding biological eligibility questions in women's basketball.
We were made to cover up our XXXY shirts at this game.
Wait, are you serious?
Yes.
They gave us shirts.
They gave us T-shirts during overtime and told us we had to leave.
And this is for the girls.
Or cover our shirts up. This just happened.
Where were you sitting?
Floor
4-3 row
C.
Yeah.
Third row of floor 3.
And how much were your seats?
$1,000 each around.
Yeah. And we did nothing. Like we were just sitting there. I didn't make signs. I wanted to make signs, but I didn't. I did nothing.
They made us put our shirts on.
I did notice during the game on the Jumbotron, they put up a woman wearing a shirt that said protect trans rights or something.
She was the one who told on because she was made to zip up her jacket.
So she also had to zip up her jacket?
But I think
that's bullshit too. She shouldn't have to.
But they put her shirt on the Jumbotron.
I know.
It's almost like the message was made and they said now zip it up to make it seem like they're consistent.
Yeah.
But they never were.
Yeah.
No, never are.
And why did you spend so much on tickets? Why was it important for you to be here today?
To support Sophie Cunningham and to support women in women's sports because it's just common sense.
And what's the relation here?
That's my daughter.
And are you an athlete?
I used to be until I had a bunch of knee surgery.
What sport?
I did all sorts here. I did soccer. I did all of that.
Yeah.
And did this issue ever come up? Like, did a biological man ever try to play against?
No. We're from here, so it hasn't happened here
a lot.
But I can't believe that just happened in
shocking.
Atlanta.
She has also become a prominent figure in the political debate surrounding Sophie Cunningham's comments, with critics arguing that Griner has been used as a symbol in the larger cultural fight taking place around the WNBA.
Woman decided to stand up for women and female spaces. And that woman is now getting lambasted by other women because she doesn't support transgender people in female spaces. Sophie Cunningham, who many of you will probably know from this video, recently got herself in hot water because she had the audacity to say that women and girls should be protected.
A meme involving Griner and Cunningham before a game was also interpreted politically by some media outlets. And now Johnson is asking the question that critics say became inevitable because the league has never clearly defined the eligibility term at the center of the controversy.
I do think that there is a thing called pretty privilege. There is a thing called white privilege. There is a thing called tall privilege. And we have to acknowledge that. And so the part of it is about race, because if you think about the Brittney Griners of the world, you know, why did she have to go to play in Russia?
Because they wouldn't pay her.
Because they wouldn't pay her.
Because they wouldn't pay. Not pushing.
You know, but I'm rooting for Caitlin because I've been in that seat before. I've walked that road before. I hope she kills. I hope Aaliyah Boston does amazing. And we have grown-ass men and women out here doing whatever they can to try to make sure that does not happen. That is the weirdest thing in the world, but it is what it is, and I'm glad that Caitlin has a great head on her shoulder.
The argument is not necessarily about hatred or bigotry. The criticism is that when a league does not clearly establish its own eligibility standards, players, fans, and critics are naturally going to ask questions that a clearly written policy could have addressed from the beginning.
100th plus in the world competing as a male. Transitions to female, and he was number one. If we're gonna act like transitioning from male to female doesn't involve an advantage for that trans athlete, I have nothing to say to you. You're not exercising common sense.
Cunningham has repeatedly said that she wants to protect young girls participating in sports. She has also stated that biological men should not compete against biological women.
Biological men playing the WNBA, the answer should be no. That should be the answer from everybody. Should biological people that were born men play in the WNBA? No. Full stop. Any other thing, and there is no, whoa, so are you saying transgenders don't have a right to say, man, shut the fuck up. I ain't saying nothing like that. You asked me a specific question. Do transgenders belong in the WNBA if you're born a biological man? No. Okay?
At the same time, she said that everyone is welcome at her table. Her argument is that women's sports should still have clearly defined competitive standards. And critics continue to point to the WNBA's lack of a specific definition as evidence supporting Cunningham's position.
Two little girls who play sports, who play soccer. They're young, and I see how much hard work they put into their sport. And only to have a boy or a man who they're biologically built different to come in and just play better and take your spot. Look, if you want to play in a trans league, go ahead, but not in girls' sports. Don't try to erase women and girls.
The WNBA has rejected what it describes as a bad faith transgender debate and has maintained that the league does not currently have an eligibility problem.
Something the president feels strongly about as well, and the American people do too, that men should not be playing in women's sports. It's completely ludicrous that anyone could support that. It's even more ludicrous that you do have Sophie Cunningham, a female athlete herself, very accomplished in her own right, coming forth and speaking that truth that men shouldn't play in women's sports.
That is the league's stated position. There are no current eligibility issues involving transgender women in the WNBA.
To protect women and girls, and the backlash she is receiving from Democrats and left-wing figures across the country is astonishing. They are clearly very out of touch with the American public on this issue, which again is an 80-20 issue. It's common sense. It's rooted in basic biological fact that men should not be competing against women on playing fields across the country.
There has also never been a transgender woman, meaning a person assigned male at birth who transitions to align with her gender identity, listed on a WNBA roster, according to the argument presented here.
What we're attacking women. We're saying
if
you look
Megan,
like
no
this
one's
as a
attacking women. No one's attacking women. If you were born with a dangling, we don't want you to compete with girls. That's all it is.
That may be factually accurate, but critics argue that it does not address the larger question behind the controversy. They say the debate exists because the WNBA's CBA uses the word women without providing a detailed definition. They also point to public statements and actions by people connected to the league, including Cheryl Reeve wearing a shirt expressing support for transgender children and Gabby Williams saying she would welcome a biological male onto her team.
Because this isn't, as you said, Tommy, a whoops. This is intentional. This was targeting Sophie Cunningham, and I don't care if the player is white or black. It does not matter. When you do this to somebody, this is horrible for the league. Obviously, this was done because Sophie Cunningham stood up for women, saying that men shouldn't play against women in sports because there is obviously a chromosome advantage, just like you see with steroids, a chemical advantage.
The controversy continues because critics say the league still has not provided a clear answer to Johnson's question. The absence of a current transgender player does not automatically resolve the argument over how the league defines eligibility. And simply calling the debate bad faith does not answer the underlying policy question. Critics view that as a legal issue rather than simply a political opinion.
Women are 51% of the population. We need to start acting like it. Boycott the WNBA. They don't know what a woman is. They don't know how to protect women in girls' sports in the WNBA. The W that stands for woman, not trans, that starts with a T. Woman. Y'all don't know what that is? Boycott them. Our girls deserve fairness in their sports and in the locker room. And I'm just having it really up to here with the WNBA and the cowardice. And every fucking WNBA player that says, oh, I don't mind a trans on a team with me, you're fucking lying. You haven't had it. You haven't experienced having a male in the locker room with you. I have. It is fucking demeaning. It crosses our boundaries. It disregards our privacy and what we actually want as women. Fuck the WNBA and any other sports league that allows men to play with women. Boycott.
If Kaner Freedom or White were to pursue legal action after being denied eligibility without a clearly defined standard, the WNBA could be required to explain its eligibility criteria in federal court. Saying that only women are eligible without clearly defining the term may not, according to critics, provide a sufficiently detailed legal standard. It is a sentence in the agreement, but the meaning behind that sentence remains the center of the dispute.
Sophie Cunningham was brutally fouled in the face during today's game, and the offending player, Dejanay Carrington, was ejected after officials ruled her hit a flagrant 2. But after the ejection, Carrington posted, quote, white privilege on social media and tagged the Indiana Fever. The on-court drama follows weeks of backlash and protests against Cunningham for speaking out against including transgender athletes in the WNBA.
Stephen A. Smith addressed the issue in 3 sentences on SiriusXM. His argument was essentially this: the CBA explicitly says the league is for women and states that only women are eligible to play. So if someone is a woman, they are eligible. If they are not a woman, they are not. From that perspective, the question becomes simple. What exactly is the complication?
It's a flagrant 2 every single damn time in the NBA and the WNBA. But you know things have devolved when you've got the Attorney General for the state of Florida saying that's why WNBA games ain't here because guess what? We are the prosecutor. Attorney General James Uthmeyer, the WNBA knows better than to play games down here in Florida because I'll be charging people with assault. I should probably clarify. Assault and battery. That is from the Attorney General of the state of...
The complication, critics argue, is that the WNBA has never clearly defined the term. And that is precisely the issue Johnson brought into the spotlight. Cunningham raised her concerns months earlier, saying in February 2026 that she wanted to protect young girls in locker rooms and in sports from having to compete against biological men. Since then, she has faced intense criticism online and in public. She has been labeled MAGA Barbie, faced backlash surrounding a hard foul, seen accusations of white privilege directed at her, and dealt with protests outside games. Yet throughout the controversy, her position has remained consistent. She said what she said.
Head coach Stephanie White, well, she didn't want biological men kicked out of women's sports, and she made that pretty clear.
I don't know that I would say that I'm educated enough from a scientific standpoint. I don't ever believe that exclusion is an answer. I just don't. I do think, when we think about various levels of sport, various governing bodies of sport and things that go into that, like I said, I'm not educated enough at the different levels. I know growing up, I played with the boys all the time.
Then came the reported WNBA task force meeting focused on defining what a woman is, and critics say it still failed to produce a definitive public answer. Johnson then asked the same basic question that the task force was allegedly unable to resolve. Meanwhile, the controversy surrounding Griner and the league continued to grow. Cunningham's central message was that young girls should be protected in sports. Her critics strongly disagreed, while her supporters argued that she was raising a legitimate concern about competitive fairness. The WNBA's response has been to reject what it calls a bad faith debate. Fans, however, have continued weighing in. One fan wrote that the WNBA calling Kaner and White's position bad faith and a stunt was ironic given that the league's lengthy CBA does not clearly define what a woman is. Another supporter argued that Cunningham simply said what the league's own eligibility language already implies, while pointing to the task force's inability to provide a clear definition. A third fan summarized the controversy this way. The WNBA dismissed Griner and White's efforts as a stunt, reportedly held a task force meeting to address the definition of a woman, and still did not provide a definitive public answer. For Cunningham supporters, that is the heart of the controversy. They believe she was raising questions about women's sports that deserved a clear policy rather than political arguments and public relations responses. Now the bigger question is this: does the WNBA's inability to publicly provide a clear definition of woman, even after a formal task force discussion, strengthens Sophie Cunningham's original argument that women's sports need clearly defined eligibility standards to protect competitive integrity? Let us know what you think in the comments.